You're listening to the No Name Photo Show. It's not spouse approved. It may or may not be safe for work. We'll see. And now, here's your host, Brian Matiash, and me, Sharky James. Hey, Brian. So, it's episode 1.
Yes, it is, Sharky.
I can't believe it. As if I'm not busy enough, I'm taking on another podcast.
How did this come? Like, we were talking about this and
for like a year.
Yeah, and just but it went on hiatus, that idea, for a while, until I moved here to Lincoln, and then it just kind of like, hey, let's do this, right?
I don't even. I was thinking about this the other day. How did I get into this? How did I get roped into doing another show?
But okay, so let's start. For those of us, this is episode 1 of the No Name Photo Show. So who are you?
We're the No Names.
So with that said, what is your name?
I'm Mike Sharky James. Everyone just calls me Sharky or Sharky James, or some people just call me James. They think Sharky James is like I could have been Crazy James or Wild James or something like that. But so I'm Sharky James, and 3 years ago last month, I started developing a podcast. It became the Lens Shark Photography Podcast. 8 months later, ginormous petapixel, 6 million plus unique readers a month. Said, hey, why don't you come over and let's team up and do the Petapixel Photography Podcast. So we rebranded, and I've been doing that now I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary in September. We're having a big giveaway. We're giving away a camera and a whole bunch of stuff. So you definitely want to follow the Petapixel Photography Podcast. Hit subscribe right now on this show, the No Name Photography Show, No Name Photo Show, not No Name Photography Show. That would be some other guy. No, the No Name Photo Show. You want to hit subscribe. That would help us out greatly. And, I don't know what to say. I was a career photojournalist in Arizona, moved to Utah to be with my wife and kids. And then we moved to Idaho. Never thought I would move to Utah, let alone Idaho. But yeah, we always say we're slowly escaping to Canada. We were in Arizona and we moved up one state to Utah, then Idaho, next stop Canada, I guess. No,
what about Washington?
What about Washington?
Well, I guess you could.
That's to the left.
Yeah, but
straight up in Idaho is Canada.
Yeah.
All right, but people are probably bored by this. Go ahead. Tell them who you are.
So my name is Brian Matiash. I'm the other kind of half of the No Name Photo Show, and I've been a photographer for about 20 years now, doing it professionally for the past number of years, one way or the other. I always feel like I have to qualify that, Sharky. Like, professionally, the way I consider that is I've worked for myself, for my business, for 2 years now, but I've also worked professionally in the kind of industry. I've worked at Google and Sony and OnOne and Wacom, and all of that kind of was with, I got to work on the other side of the table with photography in that industry. So, but yeah, kind of like Sharky, I've moved around a bunch now. Just about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I moved from Portland, Oregon to Lincoln, Nebraska with my wife, who's also a longtime professional photographer. Her name is Nicole S. Young.
Nicole Z.
Yeah, that's her moniker. That's her kind of like company name. So we moved here. Cost of living is significantly lower, and she's from here, from Lincoln. So we've got family here, and that's really nice. But
and you're centrally located to everything, almost literally.
Yeah, and I never really heard of the term or use a term like flyover state until coming here. But everything Lincoln is becoming, as far as I know, it's becoming quite popular. But like you said, centrally located, so I can drive like 7 hours and be in Colorado. I can go to South Dakota, get some really awesome kind of middle of the country landscape stuff.
And here in Idaho, I have easy access to potatoes.
Oh man.
Because that's all I tell people all the time. Nate, what else do you know besides potatoes for Idaho? There's literally nothing. Like, I could be number 2 on the list.
You're gonna
I have
so many people.
No, but people don't know this, but Idaho is a tech hub. Micron is based here. Crucial Memory, Micron's based here, and there's a lot of tech companies coming here. But anyhow, they want to hear about photography, right? We could go off on, you're not going to hear a lot of chit chat about who we are after this episode. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of stuff because we want this to be a value to people, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're used to listening to my show, it's quick, it's pithy, and that's what it's going to be too.
Yep.
I said in the intro, it might not be safe for work. It's going to be. We're not going to swear. If we do, we'll bleep that out. I'm sure we'll do that.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a pithy kind of show and a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is kind of like the first episode of Game of Thrones where you just kind of have to acclimate to who these people are. It's kind of weird. They look very strange and you're not quite sure if they bathed today or anything like that. But
spoiler, Brian dies in this episode and I replace him.
Yeah, it's going to be a very weird journey for you guys. But thanks for being here. You know, like this is something that we've been talking about for a while. So with that, like let's talk less about why we started and let's actually get into the show.
Let's do it.
Cool. So yesterday was a little bit of something. Today is, what is it, August 22nd, Tuesday. So yesterday was what, Sharky?
The Great American Eclipse.
And what are your thoughts on the Great American Eclipse, Sharky?
I could care less about it. I really so I've never seen a total eclipse before, and totality was 90 minutes north of where I am here in Boise. And I was, as I said online, totality uninterested. I did not care. I mean, and not to denigrate, everyone who was interested, because I get it. It's fun. It's maybe a once in a lifetime thing. The next time it's going to happen in America is going to be 2024.
Yep.
So hopefully I'll still be around. That's just how many years is that? 17 years from now? No, 7 years from now. We're in 2017.
Sharky.
Time is flying.
No one to carry here.
We're not going to do math here. We're not. We're going to try to do as especially the head hurting kind of math as I talk about on the show. We're not going to do that. But the eclipse, I've seen partial eclipses. I've photographed them before. I knew what to expect. I knew about how much of the eclipse we'd see here in Boise. I didn't need to see the whole thing. But I knew that I could go online and there'd be amazing photos from people that have shot this before or just really cared about it. What I wanted to do was to enjoy it here with my family. So I shot photos of them looking at the eclipse. I looked at it as well. And it just, what I really liked about it was that weird, creepy lighting that happened near totality, as much as we had here. That really it almost looked like you had polarized sunglasses on.
Right.
The birds were freaking out all around. They thought it was nighttime. It was just, our motion detector lights outside came on. That's how dark it got here. It wasn't super dark, but it was enough for those to turn on.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
It was fun. It wasn't, I didn't care to photograph it. It's like, my thing is I love to shoot sports, and there's a lot of things that photographers don't care to shoot. And it's not to be negative or anything. Like, I have really no interest in macro photography.
Right.
That's Don Komareshka's territory, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, he's masterful.
And, there's a lot of people that are never going to shoot astrophotography. Or medical type photography, just not interested in that. And there's merit into shooting something that you've never shot before. But if you're not into it, don't shoot it. Just enjoy it, or just enjoy the photos that other people are going to create.
Yes. And to that, there are several points I can make on that. I agree with that. Like for me, bird photography. Nicole's she just booked her trip to New Mexico in, I think, November, day after Thanksgiving. Scott Bourne is running a workshop, and she's going to join there to shoot some crane migration.
In Bosque del Apache.
Okay.
In November, right? Around Thanksgiving time.
Yeah.
Where he shot his famous, what was it? Cranes in the Fire Mist. You got to Google Cranes in the Fire Mist. Amazing
no, I know the shot. I absolutely.
No, I'm talking about the audience. You know this shot, but Bob and Susie listening might not know it.
That's true. Bob and Susie, be sure to Google it. And then Scott's been, he's been in the industry for forever. And so I know Nicole's very excited, but for me, I could care less. I can appreciate the photos, and I can appreciate what they're. The reason why for me, the eclipse, I actually very loosely went out of my way or made an attempt to photograph it, is because no matter what, whether I was living in Oregon at the time or now in Nebraska, the eclipse, the path of totality covered both of those states. And it's so funny, Sharky. So, last weekend, Nicole and I went scouting for locations, and we found a really nice location literally on the path, and it was going to give us 2.5 minutes. And then yesterday, if you followed the store, I shared a bunch of stuff on my Instagram stories. We just had a bunch of cloud cover, And
I know I made fun of you on my stories about that.
I know.
I had nothing but clear skies here and didn't care to shoot it. And then you had cloud cover and you were cursing everybody.
Absolutely. And so Nicole's like, well, we can just stay here. I was like, what are you talking about? We're not in the path. And she's like, no, we're in the path of totality. We just have a minute and a half instead of 2.5 minutes. So we had my father-in-law and my sister-in-law and Nicole here, and we just hung out in the driveway. And, you know, I shared photos of, you know, the camera's just kind of pointed up with my gimbal. And I am so frustrated about this. Leading up to it, the whole event is like 3 hours, right, Sharky? I think it was like 3.
Yeah.
So
give or take. And
everything was going great, even though there were clouds. The solar filter I had, plus I was shooting at 800 millimeters. It was a Sony 100-400 with a 2-time teleconverter on the A7R II. So I had plenty of reach. I had plenty of megapixels. And every phase, you know, like when it started, when just the moon started to breach to when, you know, up until.
So things were going well by that point.
You can say
up until that point.
Up until that point, you can say that things were going just peachy.
And then it was every photographer can relate to this. They say they have the curse. Matt Kloskowski, he's like, I've got the Kloskowski curse for you. Like, if you need clouds on your shoot, you have blue skies. And if you need blue skies, you have clouds. Every photographer, unless, you know, there's some of them out there that just are born with, like, you know, the best luck. They have tons of karma. 30 seconds before totality. Like arguably the most important part of the show, of the event. Not arguably, it is.
You're right. You can't argue about it.
It's the main thing.
It's the main event. It's the Tyson fight.
It's why people traveled to the areas in the middle of nowhere in America.
That's right. Exactly.
To go shoot totality. Otherwise, they could have been in my backyard here in Boise and seen like 97% of it.
Right. Or, you know, absolutely exactly right. 30 seconds before, this thick bank of clouds just comes right through. I saw nothing. All I saw was the light, the ambient light. It went from bright, or no, it was kind of like, you know, kind of dark, and then within 2 seconds it went to sunset mode. It wasn't like nighttime mode. You can see a few stars, but it went to sunset mode. And I'm up there. Nicole and I are just like looking up, like, no. And then all of a sudden, a minute and a half later, it went right back to being bright again. The clouds went away.
And you were still in totality at that point, or you had like seconds?
No, that was it.
So you missed totality.
Totally. I totality missed totality. I had absolutely zero. I had 100% opportunity, meaning where I was standing in my driveway, 100% opportunity in path. I had 0% execution because of those clouds. I had so my idea, you know, what every other photographer is probably doing is, you know, compositing, you know, 5 photos on either side of the different phases, partially obscured, and then in the middle you have the totality.
Yep.
I just put the sun. I put the regular sun.
So you missed out. If you had seen the whole darn thing, the full Monty, you would have you would have seen all that wispiness come out.
Yes.
Right. And you would have seen Bailey's beads and the diamond ring. You saw none of that. You saw a cloud.
I saw a thick cloud.
Wow. And we had nothing but clear skies in all of Idaho.
And just goes to show you that whatever it is that made us hates me. And I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Did I, is there like a voodoo priestess or like some Santeria priestess who I offended that knew that I was going to
apparently
shoot? I mean, that's the only explanation.
You know, I said I wasn't going to shoot the eclipse, but I did. So I put we had all these extra pairs of glasses. Everyone's looking for glasses at last minute. So obviously poor planners, right? And we have extras. So I held it up to the back of my iPhone 6 Plus and shot it with my iPhone. And it looks like, just like everything else you see online, it looks like a distant Cheeto. It looks horrible, right? It's just, unless you use proper photographic equipment and all that, you've got a distant Cheeto.
Yeah.
Hashtag distant Cheeto.
Hashtag distant Cheeto.
That's all it is. And
But-
and you see that, and I posted on this on Instagram. You see people posting these photos. It's like, look, I shot the eclipse, and it's just a distant Cheeto.
Right.
And that's what it could have been. And I put on my Instagram, I photoshopped. It took me about 3.5 minutes last night. I created the eclipse from what we saw here in Boise in Photoshop. It's literally just a black and a yellowish disc. And I think people on Instagram are like, wow, it's amazing that you got a great shot. I put in there was Photoshop, but
yeah,
it's basically what I saw.
Right.
I didn't put a distant Cheeto on there.
But the thing is, there's, of course, you were very kind of like clear. You just doesn't interest, even though you had the opportunity to see the majority of it didn't interest you. For me, I had this metamorphosis. Like as soon as it became clear that there was no chance of seeing totality, my attitude, it was a 180. Like I was like, oh yeah, Great American Eclipse 2017. This is the stupidest event. Why would anyone want to waste their time? Why would anyone want to fly and pay? And this is the stupidest thing. This is so dumb.
That's something I want to get into is traveling to and spending money for once in a lifetime things and the merits of that, because a lot of people are like, should I go? Should I not go? So we should probably talk about that at some point.
Sure. I mean, and so once in a lifetime, that's the thing though. Once in a lifetime for the eclipse, that might be literally true for a lot of people, especially if you're older or whatnot. But what about once in a lifetime? Let's say you fly to Africa, like, you go on, it's a once in a lifetime trip for you. You're just not going to make it there. Like, that's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what different, so flying, so you're, if I'm reading or understanding correctly, and keep me honest here, like flying to shoot a leopard or an elephant, even it's once in a lifetime, holds more merit to you than the total eclipse.
See, if you're okay, so with your example, you're going on safari, right?
Right.
To Africa. You're going to see animals. They're everywhere.
Right.
But the eclipse, you could be foiled by smog, bad weather, any of that stuff. Right. So you're going to see cheetahs, you're going to see elephants, you're going to see something. Right.
Well, I would say the likelihood is probably greater on a safari if you do your research, just like you should do with the eclipse. If you go at the right time of year and make sure you get the right whatever, and you have the right equipment, just like you said with the phone versus proper photo equipment.
Yeah, so this was the right time of the year, literally, for the eclipse. We knew this was coming for centuries, or whenever they last calculated this. But you were foiled by a cloud in Nebraska.
And I didn't have to I traveled 10 feet in front of my garage.
And you were going to travel how far away? You found a spot. You guys went scouting. So
for me, I mean, it was maybe 40 miles. So, but it would have been on Highway 80, if I remember correctly, or 77. And whatever the case, either they were completely just bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, for people who do travel, let's just use the eclipse as an example, like traveling, there were people who like Gordon Lang, he hosts the cameralabs.com. He traveled, he was in New York. If I remember correctly, we were chatting on Facebook Messenger. I think he was in New York and he was driving over to Oregon. And he's shot the total eclipse before. So he was actually a really great resource, but he drove across the country literally to get there.
And he lives in England.
Right.
Yeah. So he planned this. He's not like us, just kind of winging it.
Yeah. Let's just start a podcast.
Well, when did you start planning this?
Oh, just
to shoot it.
That's a good question. Maybe like 6 weeks prior to me. I was so preoccupied with, like quitting Wacom, getting my business back up, and then moving halfway across the country. Plus, this, let people understand. We've got this whole podcast, this No Name Photo Show. We've been working on this very aggressively for about a month now.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot going on. So the eclipse has been, the little cracks here and there where water flows. That's kind of my preparation. But I did spend, a decent amount of money.
Which and we had a post on that on petapixel.com about that. You want to tell them about what went on with the whole filter? Because that was I wouldn't say it was a little scandal or anything, but
right.
Is from Lee Filters perspective, word got out there that these filters, Amazon was refunding people's money because these weren't worthy of shooting the eclipse. What Amazon actually classified them as apparatus for viewing the eclipse incorrectly.
Exactly right. I got this email out of backtrack. Back in June, I ordered, Nicole and I both ordered on Amazon. Lee has a 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter square kind of drop-in solar filter. It's the equivalent of 20 stops of a neutral density filter. So we got them. Everything's great. And then like the week before, out of the blue, I get this email from Amazon stating that exactly what you said, Sharky. This is not rated for viewing the eclipse. Do not use this device. And
what did you think when you got that? You were like, huh? Like,
well, yeah, I was pretty upset because, I just, I went with a knee jerk reaction. Like in bold, it says, do not use this to view the eclipse. And we are going to be, we're going to be proactively refunding you. So I was like, okay, now what do I do? I went on Amazon site. I went to B&H. Those filters are sold out. So, I posted on social, I shared it with you and that, you shared it with Michael at Petapixel. And that's kind of how that really, started getting, wood behind the arrow, when Michael, reached out and he's like, hey, he wants to put it on Petapixel. That's when the lead.
But when you got that, I'm sorry to interrupt. When you got that email, did you doubt it? Were you like, wait a second, did I possibly buy did I buy the wrong one? Or were you like, Amazon messed up here?
It's a good question. To be honest, I wasn't sure because just a few days prior, I went to a presentation on the eclipse with two NASA teachers or instructors, and they were talking about how you really want to make sure that whatever you're using meets that. There's an ISO, the International Standards Organization. They have a certain rating or standard for these filters or the glasses that you use.
And that's what's funny too. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again. We're going to do that here on this show. We're going to be rude like that.
Totally.
It's so funny that, the newscasters and everything and all these websites online said, watch for the words ISO 12 something, whatever on your glasses. And then, you have the right ones. Like counterfeiters don't know how to put the incorrect information on there. It's just so stupid.
Exactly. And it's like, exactly. I can appreciate it. That what that meant, but it's totally right. And what I was trying to parse out with the email, because the email was it was vague in terms of, so they're saying not to view it with my eyes or what about with the camera? Because that's all I really cared about. And so, I messaged Lee on Facebook, I sent them a private message through Messenger. I tweeted them. And it was a Saturday, and they're a UK-based organization, so it did take them until I think Tuesday. And the Petapixel article ran on a Monday, the week before I believe the eclipse. And so they came back and they were just like, "No, this is Amazon. This is our lenses are certified to do this. We can do this. You're fine." But in the meantime, I reached out to a good friend who a former High Tech who hooked me up with one of I didn't even know that they had 100 by 100 drop-in solar filters. I know they had screw-on filters. So he sent me one. So I had that, and I know that was legit too. So I was covered for all it's worth.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about, Sharky? I mean, the eclipse, I think we're good there. I think people, that topic, it's one of those rapid, what is it? How do you say, like rapid rate of diminishing returns? Meaning yesterday was like at its peak. And then within a couple hours, your streams were flooded with the same kind of photo. And then today it's like, I really don't want to talk about the eclipse
Like
anymore.
I said on Facebook, I said, my eclipse, my feed is filled with eclipse photos today. All those distant Cheetos, right? And some nice photos. And then it's back to politics and cats.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So you're back to normal. Everything's good in the world again. You're back to crazy politics and crazy cats. Well, everything is good.
Fortunately, this is a photo show. It's not a politics or cat show, so we're immune to that kind of like. But I do one thing that I know we as photographers do love is talking about gear, and I so Sharky and I we put a lot of thought into the format of the show and how we want to do it. I think Sharky, we're okay to say that we will eventually have guests on. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll bring people in and they might sit with us for a little bit or maybe the whole show. You and I know a lot of fun, interesting people.
Right.
And maybe we'll even have some listeners on. Who knows?
Ooh,
we'll have a stupid contest.
That
hanging with Brian and Sharky.
I like that. Yeah, totally. We should have some listeners. Or what I would love to do is have some sort of a thing where the listeners can submit questions, kind of like, getting that input that we can talk about. But, I know one of the things that I definitely want to discuss in every episode is gear. And I know other photo podcasts, it's not original, but I think it is important just because the segment has to do with gear. What you pick probably would be something that no other photographer would pick. And so there's diversity. I think there's a lot of room there. So, Sharky, I want to introduce this. Tell me about whatever gear you want to talk about. What's the gear on your shelf?
All right. So the thing, if I didn't talk about this, my audience would just rail on me. So yes, I'm going to talk about the infamous. And if you're watching online on our YouTube channel or Facebook, you see the infamous, or is it now famous? It didn't kill anybody, so I guess it's not infamous.
Right.
Unless I smash someone over the head. They're going to love that at me photo. You can kill somebody with these now. You probably could. Hey, for protection, right? For protection as a photographer, if you've got a monopod,
me photo
does not endorse murder and whatever
tripods.
They're great people though, so they're gonna think this is hilarious. But if you're watching right now, you're seeing the infamous or famous purple tripod. This is, they've got a bunch of them, right? So what Me Photo is all about are fun, mostly travel tripods. These are not the ginormous, super expensive, like $1,000 crazy heavy tripods that you're going to put a ginormous 600 millimeter lens or an 800 millimeter lens on. These are things that you need to have a tripod with you. So you get one of these, you put it in your trunk, you bring it with you on vacation because they are small. They're small, they're lightweight. I've got the aluminum one. They've got carbon fiber and all that. But this is the Me Photo Air. This is the Globetrotter model. So this is the larger of the line. And what I like about it, first of all, it's purple. And I thought I was original with this, but I was not. There are very few original ideas apparently out there in 2017.
What do you mean by not about being original about it?
Well, I was getting to that, Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sharky.
I know I ramble sometimes, but and you can cut me off at any time or tell me we're drifting. But if the war on photography, as we know, is real, especially since 9/11. Photographers get harassed all the time. If you photograph a government building, you're going to get a talking to. Never mind Google, Street View and whatever has every angle covered, and you can go online on Flickr or whatever and see every square inch of a building. But you drop a tripod somewhere, and by drop, we don't mean actually like drop it. We mean actually put it down and set it up. You put a tripod down, and you're probably going to get a talking to, or people are going to notice you. If you've got a purple tripod, you would think that would draw a lot of attention. You will go almost unnoticed. People see it, they might giggle a little bit and have a good laugh, and they're going to move on. Security guards, a lot of people have told me this since I've started talking about this in the show. Security guards see you with a purple tripod, or they make red and orange and green and everything. They'll leave you alone because they think, well, he can't possibly be a professional. He's got a purple tripod. Like, that matters. The color of your tripod is not going to matter. It is repellent.
It's kind of like hiding in plain sight type of thing.
Exactly. Like Scott Bourne says, when he goes and shoots, he puts on the loudest Hawaiian, shirt he can, puts in his back pocket, he puts, one of those brochures you get at your hotel, and tries to look as non-professional as possible because the goal is to get the shot. And whether you're professional or not, you don't want to be harassed. You want to go make photographs.
Sure.
You don't want people talking to you and asking you questions. And if you drop a purple tripod, you are probably going to be okay. I'd say 99% of the time. So aside from this thing being purple, it has, and I should disclose that Me Photo is one of our sponsors over on the Petapixel Photography Podcast. And so it's got the Hyperlock leg system. A lot of times you have to undo every single, leg segment. With this, you just undo it, you extend it, and you twist it the other way, and it's locked. And this particular model, the Air model, has something that I don't use, but it's got a selfie stick built in. And, it's got a selfie stick built in, and it comes with an adapter so you can put your phone on there, and it has a Bluetooth remote.
Wait, I don't understand. For those who are watching on the video, can you show this? Because I did not know what.
You have to undo it and stuff. The bottom unscrews, the center column comes out. And I don't have it with me right here. This is just the regular standard Arca Swiss style, tongue and groove or whatever plate on there. And that's great. It's not proprietary. It's a, Arca Swiss. So you're going to be able to fit your L plates on there, etc. It comes with a, spring tension holder. And I've got a iPhone 6 Plus. So it's the big boy. You can put that on there. There's a lot of times where you might, a lot of people are buying these and they're vloggers or they're doing a lot of the kind of stuff that we do. And so you bring one of these smaller Me Photo tripods with you. You put your phone on there, and you've got the remote, and you can control it from the Bluetooth remote. But you don't have to do that too. Like I say in the show, options are good. You can use it as a regular tripod. It gets really low. It gets fairly high. I'm 6'4", so almost no tripod ever gets to the length where I can shoot eye level. I'm always having to crouch down. But you can use this any number of ways. So can I is it okay if I give my the code on the show for people that want to save some money?
Why
Even
not?
though they're not sponsoring this show. So go to mephoto.com. That's MEFOTO.com. Use the code Petapixel, PETAPIXEL, and you'll get 10% off your order.
Boom.
So
yeah.
I love these tripods. I owned Me Photo tripods before they were even a sponsor. They make great things. These are great travel tripods. And this one I think holds up to like 17.6 pounds. How's that for specific? So that's going to hold most of your, fairly heavy gear. And you always want overhead too. That's great. If it says 17, maybe put only like 12 or 14 or so pounds on there. I always like to have a little bit of wiggle room.
Sure. Well,
that about covers it, right? Do you have any questions about the purple tripod? It's very shiny. No one's going to bother you with this.
No, it's definitely distinct. And just to show that we're actually, there's no like favoritism or anything. Like I'm actually a Really Right Stuff guy. I use Really Right Stuff exclusively, just because that's my favorite brand, and that's for my gear. Just so happens I also kind of have a tripod accessory. So this is a gimbal head by Really Right Stuff.
That looks expensive, Brian. How much was that?
Yeah, so this this itself I think was like $860. It's the Really Right Stuff PG-02. And the reason why I got this was because I got this specifically when I was saying earlier in the show, like, I spent money for this, for the Eclipse. It wasn't for travel so much as the gear. I recently also got a Sony 100 to 400 millimeter lens, the new one, relatively new one for the Sony full frame mirrorless system.
Is that a G Master?
It is a G Master.
That's the one they introduced with the A9.
Yes, I think you're right, actually.
They called it a sports lens.
And it's a beautiful lens.
Which I take issue with.
Why?
Well, because, I was a photojournalist, and what I do best, and most of my Associated Press awards are for sports.
Sure.
Most photographers are not going to shoot with what is that, like an f4 to 5.6?
4.5 to 5.6.
Yeah, unless you're shooting in the most amazing lighting conditions, you're not going to use a lens like that. So I'm surprised Sony didn't come out with like a 300 2.8 at the time. The 70 to 200 will get the job done, but for most, like, controversy here, most mom and pops, photographers that are shooting Johnny or Susie at their games or whatever are going to want an f2.8 lens. So it's a great lens. Everyone says it's great, but I take issue with the sports marketing of it.
Yeah, and leave that to the marketing departments. I do know that the Sony shooters have been clamoring for that 100 400 millimeter range. Plus, they have both a 1.4 and a 2x teleconverter, and which I have the 2x. So this is more for me. It's more reach, and the longer your focal length, you still have that really great separation of of your foreground or your plane of focus and your background. So, for when I was shooting yesterday, the Eclipse, I was at 400 with the 2x, so I was at 800. My maximum aperture I started at f11, which kind of that was I had to work around that with the ISO, trying to keep the exposure fast enough because that moon is moving really fast.
Oh yeah. And the lighting's changing like crazy
constantly. And we had clouds going through. So you can see the sun through the clouds and the moon through the clouds, but it's still, like you said, they changed the exposure. But I'm going to go back to my thing, Sharky. Are you okay? Are you okay with that?
Yes, you can. Like I said, and people are going to be like, hey, he needs to stop interrupting him. We're going to do that in this show. When ideas come up, we're going to do it. Because I was going to ask you something else and I didn't ask.
Why not?
Well, I was going to ask you, let's just jump into it then. I was going to ask you about that 2x teleconverter. How is it? Because as we know, throughout all photography, most teleconverters have been horrible. You lose sharpness, your focusing kind of sucks. You lose 2 stops of light at 2x, and 1.4 you usually lose stop. So how is it? How's that Sony? And this obviously Sony's never going to sponsor this show after I bash the 100 to 400's marketing. But how is it? Because people probably want to know. You've actually used it. I haven't used it.
I've used it only yesterday. Admittedly, was the first time I used it. Even though I have the 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8, the newer 70 to 200 millimeter, which was the teleconverters were announced with that lens. I haven't had an opportunity to use it. With that said, yesterday I have perfectly sharp photos. They are on the noisier side because I had to jack my ISO up to, it was an 87R2s jacked up to I think 8,000 to get my.
Oh, it can handle that though.
It can handle that, but
it's not ideal, but.
Exactly. And so what I will do for the next episode, just to kind of follow up, is I will take the setup upstairs and in normal light where f11 is not an issue, in getting a faster shutter speed at a lower ISO, I will come back and say, hey, is this, I will say, yes, this is sharp, this is not sharp. But from what I've seen so far, it was good.
Nice.
So, but just to get back to this thing. So
no, let's not go back to it. We're gonna delay your pick for like an hour.
No, Sharky.
Go ahead.
This is a gimbal head. Any photographer who odds are does a lot of long focal length photography, sports photographers, animal photographers, bird photographers, probably know what a gimbal head is, but also photographers who are big into panoramic, like really, really large pano photos. What this does is instead of having your camera and lens on a ball head or, whatever single point you have, and you have to rotate the whole camera with this, oops, I hit my mic. You can actually rotate the camera, and then you can also adjust this angle here, and it kind of goes very smoothly up and down. So
and it's got measurement and everything on there. That thing is
this is
unbelievable.
And it's heavy.
Well, yeah. And it's made to support probably 50 pounds or something, maybe more than that.
Yeah. I'm not as well read with the gear. But in terms of you were saying how your tripod's 17.6, pounds, but when you look at this thing, it's a formidable piece of gear. And I got it because you wouldn't typically, I wouldn't think, use it with, a 2470 or a 1635. I typically see people with, when your lens has one of those, it comes with its own little tripod collar, little tripod foot.
Yeah. That's a sign.
That's a sign. So
you're not shooting wide angle with a gimbal head. I mean, you could. No one's going to bother you, just like a purple tripod. No,
I would bother you. Sharky,
you don't even need to know about photography, and then you're going to leave that person alone because you'd bother me. I know you would.
I would. If I saw you shooting at 1635 with on a gimbal like this gimbal, I would take issue with that, and I would be forced to make fun of you.
Goes without saying.
So Sharky, I'd say this was a pretty good episode.
If we say so ourselves.
Yeah, if I do say so myself.
It's it's funny. Back 3 years ago, last month, when I was developing my show, the one thing I was like, I don't want to do a two guys in their basement chit chat show because there's dozens upon dozens of those.
Right.
So, we're going to have to differentiate ourselves, of course. And it comes down to personalities. If you like what I do on my show, I'm different on this show. I'm different on TWIP. I'm different. I was on Scott Bourne's show. I'm different on this than I am on my show because it's a completely different thing. It's like doing a comedic play versus a dramatic play. It's a whole different animal. So, this is just episode 1. We've done this kind of stuff before. I think we did a pretty decent show. We're going to have more than one topic. It's going to be more than just eclipse stuff. It's going to be a more variety thing. There's going to be a lot for you to dig in, and you and I have a lot of experience, and we talk to a lot of photographers. We're going to have people on here that are making waves in the industry, people that maybe you don't usually hear on shows, and it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be a boring interview kind of thing. Are they going to be able to hang with us is really the question.
Right.
Because if we're going to interrupt, we're going to give them crap about stuff. We can say crap on the show. We're going to keep it interesting because it's us. We're fun. You guys get a peek into the conversations that Brian and I have offline. The cleaned up version.
And I think that sums it up really well because Sharky and I talk offline all the time, and two photographers, coming from different kind of areas of the industry, there's a lot of experience that we bring to our conversations, and so this podcast, if I do say so, I think I'm very excited for it. I hope you guys enjoy what you hear, and as we go forward, I'd say this was pretty polished, but it's going to get even more refined, even though we're going to, like Sharky said, talk over each other. But we just want to kind of, like, as if we were just chatting with you guys, just have a very informal conversation about things that are important to us in photography.
Absolutely. We have a lot to draw upon. There's a lot of data points. When I was a photojournalist at my last newspaper where I was full time, I shot 1,500 assignments in just over 5 years and 3 months. That's 1,500 points of reference. I mean, and you've shot a lot too. So we can impart some information. And if you listen to my show, I drop a lot of tips here and there, and a lot of weird stuff. And this show is going to be weird too. This is not going to be a boring, stodgy kind of it's going to be an interesting show. Hopefully you guys like it. Let us know. Subscribe in iTunes or whatever podcast app you're in. Leave us reviews. If we suck, tell us. Yeah. Tell us what you would like to see on the show. Just go ahead.
Be sure. No. And to that point, just be sure we have at No Name Photo Show on every major social media channel. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow No Name Photo Show. Right now, if you go there, you're just going to see our logo. But we will be putting content. We also have nonamephotoShow.com. Right now, there's nothing there. But we wanted to get at least this first episode out. We're aiming to do an episode a week. Is that right, Sharky? We're doing one.
We're gonna commit to doing an episode a week. We'll make sure there's an episode a week.
Yeah. So with that, I think we're pretty safe to say that that's a wrap, right, Sharky?
Well, we never covered why we called it the No Name Photo Show. We're gonna put a stop to this wrapping up business.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now, and Done. We're gonna talk. Why did we call it the No Name Photo Show? Because I know people are going to ask. So instead of answering a billion questions, why did we call it the No Name Photo Show, Brian?
We really so Sharky and I were going back on this, like back and forth. Like, what should we call it? Should we, Sharky and Brian show, or this and that, some photo show with Sharky and Brian? We finally, I think Sharky was you who came up like, let's just not have a name, No Name Photo Show, something to that. Am I right? Because
I think so.
As soon as you said it, I was watching recapping Game of Thrones. I remember this. Nicole was next to me and I turned, I'm like, what do you think of No Name Photo Show? And she's like, yeah, that's good.
And she's hard to please. So if she gives it the stamp of approval, then it's decent. We couldn't think of a name.
We couldn't.
So it's like, let's call it the No Name Photo Show. It's so stupid. Ultimately, the name doesn't matter at all.
Right.
And you're not going to listen to it. You don't listen to the Petapixel Photography Podcast because it's called the Petapixel Photography Podcast. You listen because you like the show.
Exactly. And that's our aim here is, let's just get past the name of the show. Let's just get past everything. And it's the two of us. We're rapping about stuff we love, and we know you love too. And that's why it's also so important. We want to hear from you guys. But I think, yeah, that's how No Name Photo Show came to be. It was just like, and that's usually the best kind of creative things happen whimsically like that, even if it is from Sharky and not from me.
Yeah. And like I said, we're the no names, apparently.
Yeah. Even
we're trying to make a name for ourselves with the No Name Photo Show.
I'm excited.
I think it's going to be fun. We love doing this. You and I have both been on shows before, This Week in Photo and a bunch of other shows, and it's fun to do.
And now we have our own.
Exactly.
All right, Sharky.
Let's wrap it.
Yeah, let's
call it good.
Yeah, time of death.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to the No Name Photo Show. Sharky and I would be thrilled if you would subscribe in whatever podcast app you're using and tell a friend. So how about we do this again in the next episode? Yeah, let's do that.